Good evening. Is this working? Good evening. Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you. We sure appreciate our IT support and thank them for all that they do for us. I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting of the Canyons Board of Education. Today is August 16th, 2022. And we are meeting at the district office located at 9361 South, 300 East in Sandy, Utah. The first item is to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. I will ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for August 16th, 2020 as written.
2022.
2022, I'm in time warp, sorry.
I think everyone in this room would say we do not want to relive 2020. So thank you, Mr. Wrigley. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Next, we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by McKay Robinson, Director of Elementary Schools.
Will the audience please rise? Please recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. Next, we will turn time over to Jeff Haney and Kirsten Stewart from the Communications Department for some recognitions.
President Tingy, thank you for this time to recognize the achievements of students, faculty, and staff in the Canyon School District. Tonight for our recognitions, we are celebrating the achievements of Canyon's programs that are helping students gain valuable life skills, both in the workplace and on the playing field. Those who are mentioned tonight will receive a letter of recognition from the board and the superintendent. Now, we will start our recognitions tonight by honoring Canyon's District Special Education Department. Our special education department, led by Director Nate Edbelson, is receiving the Golden Key Award for Educator of the Year. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Mrs. Shaw, are you still the PTA president for CTA? But she was the inaugural PTA president, is that right, Betty? Okay. Canyons Transition Academy is receiving this award. It will be presented September 29th as part of the 48th annual awards ceremony. It's part of the Disability in Summit at the National Ability Center in Park City. This award is for CTA with work done by our CTA staff and teacher specialist, Melanie Johnson. The CTA is housed here at the central office. It's a special program that assists adult special education students living in the Canyon School District boundaries. While attending the program, students gain skills necessary to live as independently as possible. The program is for students 18 to 22 years old who've received a certificate of completion from high school, but still need a little bit more vocational and life skills training. Now, CTA is getting this award for the effective way they've introduced students to the workplace and have made inroads with business partners in our community. So congratulations to CTA for winning the Golden Key Award, Educator of the Year. So congratulations to them. And our next honorees are Alta, Brighton, and Jordan High Schools for raising the bar in sportsmanship efforts. We're giving the 3 cheers to those schools, the Hawks, the Bengals, and the Beat Diggers. They have been honored by the Utah High School Activities Association for raising the bar. This is encouraging sportsmanship at all of the competitions played by our prep athletes. Now, these awards were announced this summer by the High School Activities Association. That's when they gave the awards for the 2022 year. And Alta and Brighton, as you can see, earned the gold star. Jordan earned the silver star. The sportsmanship program of the High School Activities Association gives schools who earn these with banners with stars on them to display at their schools. This honors schools that embrace the values of personal responsibility, integrity, leadership, honesty, respect, and teamwork. These schools have shown how they can do rowdy right by respecting the opponents they face with dignity, and they support their team while not cheering for the defeat of their opponents. So Raising the Bar is a program of the High School Activities Association. It supports positive and appropriate behavior at all high school events. Spectators and fans, well, they're encouraged to be passionate, enthusiastic, but supportive. And the aim is to cheer for the home team, but not against the competition. So congratulations to our schools. And we certainly hope that all of our fans and our student athletes will remember the aims of the Sportsmanship Initiative as they start fall season. Fall sports have already started, and that includes football, cross country, boys golf, girls soccer, girls tennis, and volleyball. Marching bands are also rehearsing their field show seasons, and our high schools are casting their fall musicals. So our schools are abuzz with activities, and we're excited to see our students be able to achieve. Now, the ramp up to the start of school was busy but exciting with the ribbon cutting ceremonies for the new Glacier Hills Elementary School and the new Diamond Ridge and Entrada High Schools. So first, we have the sparkling hidden gem in Canyons that is Diamond Ridge High School. That's our alternative high school. We cheered its new home, the former Bellevue Elementary building. The school has moved from its location on the campus of the Canyons Technical Education Center to the former elementary school. And this school is being remodeled for this alternative high school and Entrada, our adult high school. And the first phase of the remodel is nearing completion. The second phase is scheduled to begin later this fall. Diamond Ridge has started already in their new building. I know a few of us popped over to Diamond Ridge on the first day, and they were so excited to have that building to themselves. They have been operating in portables, and now that they're in the building, they were extremely happy to be there. They also, then a day later, we cheered the start of the new elementary school, Glacier Hills Elementary. And it's estimated that about 1,000 people attended the ribbon cutting and open house at the new elementary school. That's not a surprise, considering that Glacier Hills houses the school communities of the former Bellevue and former Edgemont elementary schools. Now, the community has been involved from the very beginning, from choosing the name of the school to choosing the school colors to choosing the name of the school mascot, and that is Blizzard the Yeti. You can see him there helping Mr. Wrigley cut the ribbon to the new Glacier Hills Elementary School. It was an exciting ribbon cutting at both schools. Now, Monday was the first day of school in the Canyon School District, and we celebrated, as we usually do, with our students walking the red carpets because they are, after all, the stars of the day. Now, here are just a few of the photos that we took throughout the morning. You can see that parents, teachers, students, principals, support staff, they all turned out to cheer the return of 1st through 12th graders. Our kindergartners and our preschoolers start in just a couple days. You can see here the delight and in some cases the chagrin of students who had to return to school for the 22-23 school year. Now there's hope in here. There's a lot of happiness. It's almost palpable. For those of you who are able to join us, you know what I'm talking about. Now it's been 14 years since we opened as a district, and I still get chills watching students and teachers walk the red carpets to school on the very first day. I'm very proud that we started this tradition way back when. We are one of the few school districts across the country who host such celebrations to welcome kids to school on the very first day. Now, the spotlight was on Canyon School District on the first day for sure, especially at Glacier Hills Elementary School. This is where we hosted media who were interested in covering first day of school events. Kirsten and I arrived at Glacier Hills at 3:30 a.m. to welcome the press. Now, they typically have their first live hits at 4 a.m. Now, we arranged Canyon's guests, including Jordan High's cheer squad and SBOs. You can see photos of them right there. Almost every 20 minutes from about 4 a.m. till noon. We were featured on KUTV, KSL TV, Fox 13, ABC4, KSL News Radio, and a Salt Lake Tribune photographer was there to shoot photographs of the red carpet welcome at Glacier Hills. So we were everywhere the morning of the first day of school. If you turned on the television, no matter what station you were watching, you saw all of our students and our faculty and staff talk about how excited we are to start the new school year. Now, Canyon's district continues to connect with the community. Even though this is just the second day of school, we want to emphasize the many ways that we hear from our patrons and can engage with them. This year, district-wide, we are rolling out access to a mobile app and web application called Parent Square. This is a two-way communication tool. All parents, all employees have an account, and this is one of the ways that we will continue to reach out to all of our parents in the Canyon School District. One of the neat new features of Parent Square is the translation services. For example, if a teacher types a message to a parent in English, but the parent speaks Urdu in the home, the parent will receive the message in Urdu. They'll then respond in their native tongue, and when it arrives back at the teacher, it arrives in English. It allows us really quick communication to all the parents in the Canyon School District. Every child, every family is important, and we're communicating, connecting with them. President Tingy, welcome back to the 22-23 school year. Thank you for the board's support at our ribbon cutting celebrations and our red carpet celebrations, and we turn the time back to you.
Thank you. Yes, there's a lot of great things have happened this last week or so, and thank you for letting us take a minute to review and celebrate those things. We have now come to the patron comment portion of the meeting, and before I read the instructions, we have one individual that signed up, and they would like to address the board by telephone. And I am told that we have a new system, how we're going to have to do this on a temporary basis is what I understand. But so I will call this individual, and then when they're on the line, then I'll read the instructions. I'm not even hearing it ring. Oh, here it goes. Okay.
Hello?
Hello, is this Lindsay Ziegler?
Uh-huh.
Hi, I'm Nancy Tingy from the Canyons Board of Education, and we are ready to begin the patron comment portion of our meeting. And before I turn time over to you to address the board, I would like to read a few instructions.
Oh, I actually, my email was hacked and an email was resent from last year, so you can skip me.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
I noticed that this morning and was like, wait a minute, that was from about a year ago. So I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure to say hello to you, and thank you for thank you for letting us know. We appreciate it. Okay. Best wishes. Okay.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too. Bye. Okay. So we will proceed then. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. I will ask for a motion on this, and in making the motion, will you please read each of the items listed under the consent agenda?
I will move to approve the consent agenda. Item A, approval of minutes for August 2nd, 2022. Item B, approval of hire and termination reports. Item C, approval of purchasing bids. Item D, approval of student overnight travel. Item E, approval of July financial reports. Item F, approval of early learning plan for 2022-2023 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next under new business items, item 6A, we will have an update on the 2022-2023 volunteers and introduction of the Region 17 PTA Board. And it's my understanding that Susan Edwards is not able to be with us this evening. And so I will turn the time over to Ms. Sharice Hilton to give us this update.
Thank you so much to the board and to President Tingy for having us here tonight to talk about our volunteers in Canyons District. And as President Tingy mentioned, we'd like to excuse Susan Edwards, who's a bit under the weather tonight. The total volunteers for the 2021-22 school year ended up being 10,497 approved volunteers. So far this year, we have 5,329 approved volunteers, which is trending pretty close to normal for volunteers at this point in the school year. You will all remember that these numbers will increase as we have field trips, class parties, and other school events, and as they start picking up. As part of the school safety review, we are reminding our schools this year to use their computer sign-in system that is in every front office. With this system, anyone entering the school should sign in as an approved volunteer and have a volunteer badge printed out for them or a visitor badge. In the latter, the visitor would never be in the school without a chaperone with them, but no one should be in the hallways of a school during school hours without a badge, employee, volunteer, or visitor. And now it is our pleasure to introduce Ms. Terry Francis, who is our Region 17 PTA President, and she will introduce to you the Region 17 Board.
Thank you, Sharice. Thank you, President Tingy and board members for this time. Region 17, as you may know, is a division of Utah PTA that serves Canyons District. The Region 17 board is the team that oversees the 43 existing PTAs and PTSAs in Canyons District. And in schools where PTAs do not exist or where they're barely functioning, this board fills in the gaps with things like teacher appreciation. I want to share another statistic with you. During the last school year, PTA volunteers alone, so not all the volunteers, but just those doing PTA work, collectively reported serving a total of 60,591 hours. An organization called Independent Sector is widely accepted as the authority on the value of a volunteer hour. And at their current estimated value of an hour, that number of hours is worth $1,814,700.45. So we're very proud of that, and we are committed to not only continually increasing volunteerism and parent engagement in our schools, but also to ensuring that the programs and services we provide are high quality, effective, meaningful, valuable, and impactful. So now I'd like to introduce my team, which I'm very excited about this year. This is a great team. So you all know me, Terry Francis. I'm the region director. Next to me is Associate Director Liz Miles. Come up here, guys. Don't leave me alone. You were wrong. This is Liz Miles. Our secretary is Amaret Bradley. Treasurer Sheila Armstrong is returning this year, but she can't be here tonight. Our administrative vice president is Dr. Rick Robbins. Our district representative is Susan Edwards. On that note, I want to make a little aside and say that we are the only district that has a person designated to be a liaison between PTA and the district. This is extremely valuable to us because our collaboration ensures that our goals and the goals of the district are in sync. which makes them more effective and more valuable. So I wanted to say that I appreciate that. All right, we have two commissioners. For health and safety, Heather Isbell. And for advocacy, a face you all know, Betty Shaw. Okay, Region 17 PTAs are divided into 4 different councils. Each of those councils has a president who serve on the Region 17 board. So those presidents are for the North Elementary Council, Ciara Powers, who cannot be here tonight. For Central Elementary Council, Hallie Wilkins. For South Elementary Council, Mandy Phelps. And for Secondary Council, this one's got a big job, Janine Cardenas. So on behalf of this team and all the volunteers in Canyons, we want to thank you for your support as we do our work. It means a lot. And speaking as a parent, it means a lot to know that this district values parent engagement and actively promotes it. And I have a little gift for you. So if my team will help pass these around, there's some gifts. These go that way. Here, you take these, they go that way. And those go that way. Thank you so much for this time and for all of your support to parents in Canyons. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all that you do as PTA leadership in this district and your membership and your leadership throughout each school in the district. And we appreciate all the volunteers as well. It's volunteering in schools is one of the most magnificent experiences of my life. And I think many of you feel the same way. So thank you for that report and for introducing, and hope everyone has a wonderful year. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a report of district-wide Constitution Day observance plans. I will turn time over to Dr. Robert Dowdle, Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening. So this year on September 16th, we will be observing Constitution Day. In 2004, Senator Robert Byrd of West Virginia attached an amendment to the omnibus bill, which made September 17th an observation of the new day. It used to be called Citizenship Day. It was changed to Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, and it's in commemoration of the day that the 39 founding fathers signed the Constitution in 1787. And in that bill, it required that all schools receiving federal funds teach about the Constitution on that day. The following year, the Department of Education announced that nationwide and put it into effect. And so we have been observing it since that time. I sent to you, I believe that an attachment was found on board docs where you had a link so you could see the updated plans. The plans are updated by our instructional supports department each year. I really appreciate all of their effort. Jody Ide is the lead on that. And it outlines what we will be doing. So in K5, there will be a video that is shown in all classes. And in 6 through 12, you saw, if you went to that link, a large resource for our teachers to choose from. Now, a lot of our classes teach about the Constitution in a much larger scale. So when I was teaching a 9th grade class for years about civics and geography, we would cover the entire Constitution, the amendments, and it took months to do, and it was one of my favorite things to teach. So we do have those types of classes going on, and there's an awful lot of information being dispensed to our students and a lot of activities for them to enjoy that. But on this particular day, we will have a concerted effort to make sure that every school is teaching more about the Constitution and celebrating that day. Do you have any questions? Surprise.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr.
I'm
Milleberg.
shocked, I can tell. Dr. Bob, hypothetically, if I wanted to go to a school or two on Constitution Day, would I be best then to just contact the principal and ask when would be a good time to show up?
Yes, it is actually under the direction of the principal in
Okay,
each school.
thank you.
And you should be able to find activities going on in any school, every school.
But there, it won't be all day.
No.
That's what I wanted to know, just if I wanted to show up, I'd like to show up when it is happening.
You had a great plan.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Wrigley?
I just want to express my appreciation for putting all this information on the website. We have a web page with that information on there. I know even the Constitution can be sort of at question nowadays in the information we may be teaching. So all that information appears to be right online for public can go out and view that, and parents can view that process. Is that correct?
You're welcome.
That's great. Thank you.
And tomorrow we will be sending out a memo to all schools regarding Constitution Day with the link.
Other comments or questions? Mrs. Oaks?
So I know that this is specifically regarding Constitution Day, but I feel like it's an appropriate time to kind of bring up to the rest of my fellow board members questions about if there's anything else we would like to do as a board to ensure that patriotism and civics is more prioritized or more emphasized. One of the things I brought up the last board meeting specifically is with regard to our senior awards nights. I've received feedback from parents in different places that they're frustrated a little bit that sometimes various awards that are focused on patriotism, for instance, the Freedoms Foundation is one that they have. It's a national organization. It's bipartisan. It focuses on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They have a national essay contest, and every year there's only a handful of students from the entire state of Utah that win and receive that award. And we've had some students in the past that have received this, but they haven't been recognized in their senior awards evenings, in part because they were told there wasn't sufficient time. We've also had situations where we've had students that were accepted into some of our military academies, which are extremely prestigious and difficult to qualify for, that some of the officers from those respective schools would like to come, have requested to come and present those awards in front of the student body and recognize that student, and they've also been refused. And I would submit that I think it's important, at least from my perspective as a single board member, for us to make sure that that aspect is prioritized and that those students are honored and respected. And for those particular types of awards, I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on that.
Comments? Thoughts? Mrs. Nyvar?
I do think as we look forward to implementing more the Utah Portrait of a Graduate, that there is some strengthening we can do as far as civics and helping the kids understand what it means to be a good citizen, and grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy and the principles that our country was founded on. And I do think that's a great idea to go. I know we do recognize our graduating seniors who are enlisting in the service at graduation and have them stand. But, senior awards night would also, I believe, be appropriate. But I look forward to discuss, as my personal opinion, I would really look forward to further discussion in a board meeting at a later date to talk about how we can strengthen what we're teaching the kids, just as far as civic duty in general. When I ask my elementary school kids what it means to be a good citizen, they say recycling, which is a very, very important thing in taking care of the earth. But there's a lot more to it than that. And, being an educated voter and participating in civic responsibilities, I think we have maybe an opportunity there.
We do.
Thank you. Mrs. Oaks, follow up?
And just as a clarification, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because I've been told in both of those specific examples that I provided,
that everywhere else in the state of Utah, when this request has been made, all of the other districts say yes. Ours is, we've had schools, it's the only situation they've had where they've been refused. And so I want to make sure that our district is one that recognizes and supports patriotism, supports and respects that decision and sacrifice that's being made by those young people. And, or if they have been able to rise to the top of their peer group of being able to demonstrate that they understand those documents and the freedoms that they enjoy as citizens of the United States, I think it's worthwhile. I would also support the idea of having it on a future agenda to further discuss. So.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make a note that I can't speak to the winners of the contest, but I do know that at some of our high schools, they do recognize at senior night students that have received appointments to the military academies and also will be, enlisting or entering into military service. So I think some schools do it and sounds like some don't. And so that's maybe something where some consistency, but is everyone okay if we add this to a board meeting agenda for further discussion? Okay, we will do that. Any other questions for Dr. Dowdle? Okay, thank you so much for that report. Next is item 6C, Tier 1 Life Skills Supports for Students beginning in the 2022-23 school year. This is a second reading. I will turn the time over to Dr. Brian McGill, Director of Student Services.
Thank you, President Ting and Canyon School Board. Amber's going to be my co-pilot. So in the spirit of Top Gun, she's here to support me. First off, I just want to say it was fun yesterday being a part of the Glacier Hills welcome. It was pretty weird for me, having been a principal for the last, 10 years and now opening a school, but just the energy and the enthusiasm and the excitement, watching the kids' faces and the teachers as they arrived, that was pretty exciting. I think I'm most upset because I'm not going to be a part of the Alta Hello Assembly this week. So I'm curious to see what Principal Rowley's got up his sleeve. Hip hop dancing, Napoleon Dynamite dancing, weightlifting competition. So we'll see what's in the works there. Also, I do have to give a shout out to my wife, Jody. It's our 26th year wedding anniversary. So if she's watching this via stream, happy anniversary, honey. No better place to be than at a district board meeting. And then another thing that happened today is I had an opportunity to have lunch with my peer leadership team advisor from Alta that I made mention of last board meeting. And it was just an awesome opportunity. I took her out to lunch today and haven't talked to her for quite some time. But as we were talking about the experience that she provided for me and other students as part of peer leadership team, and I was telling her about this life skills project that I was involved with. And, really she put into motion live curriculum in terms of application of what we did. And so much of it, there's so much synergy and parallel between what we're trying to create in our district and what peer leadership team provides for students as part of that program. Also had an opportunity to be part of a legislative Zoom session today, and the Department of Health and Human Services, they did a study. And one of the things they highlighted was some of the schools that have a life skills curriculum and incorporated responsible decision-making, building resilience, demonstrating wellness, and kids that had a connection to school had stronger rates of attendance overall. So that was very pleasing to hear as I sat on that phone call with Susan Edwards this afternoon. All right, let's dive in. So tonight we're here to present basically a couple of different options as far as rollout for life skills curriculum in Canyons District. The first part of that is the creation process, which many of you know, we've created hundreds of lessons. We've been looking at the kindergarten and first grade Wonders curriculum for the SEL component. Second through eighth grade, we created our work groups, and the lesson plans that I shared last time were examples from that. And we ended up creating 6 lessons times 6 units times 7 grades. So, Mont's the accountant. What's the math on that? just accounting. It is a big number, hundreds, right? And then the digital citizenship component as well, which ISD is going to be helping to incorporate that as part of the curriculum. The review process, let's talk a little bit about that. I know you guys received a supporting document as part of your documents there in board docs. And it kind of walks you through that timeline. So if you want to refer to that, the review process that we're taking a look at doing, the first phase would be the content review, which we're in the process of doing right now. And that involves my department as well as Amber's department. The digital citizenship reviews I just mentioned would be through ISD. Third component would be doing the Utah code review. And I've gone through and looked at the Utah state statute in terms of curriculums that districts should be providing. And a lot of this parallels a lot of the stuff that we're looking to roll out in life skills curriculum, especially as it relates to prevention and intervention and school safety. We would then have our MTSS team do a full academic review. So that would expand across multiple directors across the district. We would then bring in teacher specialists from ISD to provide a pedagogy review and look at the calibration of the lessons and the language and the cohesion. And then we would have our parent advisory group as well. And in fact, one of our parents that's going to be helping me out tonight, who's part of our PTSA, Amberette has agreed to help us with that. So pretty excited that she's going to be involved in that process. So that kind of outlines the review process as a whole. So we would then go on to the field test, which is the actual implementation of the lessons. And the two different options we'll go ahead and present to you so you can take a look at both of those and figure out which of those two you like best, or if there's maybe another option that we hadn't thought of. And then the proposal piece of that would be spring of 2023, which we would look to bring forward the potential for full adoption of the curriculum for next school year. So in taking a look at the two options, the first option, again, just highlighting the review process. We went through that pretty thoroughly here. So the review process with option one would be happening simultaneously with the field test component with the lesson plans. Schools could begin to implement in September after we've had the internal and some parent advisory reviews as part of that process. And then the review process, like I said, basically outlined what we just covered. Then we would go into the field test simultaneously. So that would also start in September and run throughout the school year. We would give schools the opportunity, their administration and their SECs, the choice whether they want to participate in the field study. All draft lessons would be provided. Teachers would be able to review the lessons prior to instruction. And teachers, we would be asking teachers to send the lessons out the week prior to instruction and give parents the opportunity to review that, take a look at it, provide feedback. And if they wanted to opt out of that lesson, they could choose to do that as well. And then we would have feedback collected throughout that field test study process. So again, September rollout, simultaneously doing the review process. Option two would be in August through December. So same review as far as the timeline goes. The main difference here in option two is the field test we would look to implement and start in January. And we would run that through March and bring a proposal to the board, like I said, in spring. Part of what that would offer us to be able to do is we could implement it after a more stringent review and refinement process. Amber's talked about having this digital flip book. So I kind of look at the January rollout as the curriculum being the high glossy, high-end product to be able to implement. Language, scope and sequence, consistency, more feedback loops would be taking place as well between our principals, teachers, our implementation advisory committee over the course of the next 2 to 3 months. And we would be mapping lessons vertically with precision. So it would give you probably a more high quality, high end product, but it would push back the start date. And right now we know the needs of our kids and our teachers and what statute also tells us. So. And then for the adoption proposal, we would look to, like I said, present that in spring of 2023. I talked about the digital flip book, having that be available to teachers with the digital lessons, and then getting stakeholder feedback and running that through like our traditional curriculum review process. So getting feedback back from teachers, from parents, from administrators, having that be an open forum online that people could review and provide feedback before we come for the final, presentation in spring. Questions you have, and like I said, Amber's my co-pilot, so if you have questions on technicalities as far as the curriculum itself, she could probably best speak to that. So,
Questions? Mrs. Arnold? Can I make a comment? Yes, questions
thing.
and comments. Yeah. So, actually it's a question and a comment. So we're putting out, the teachers right now are working on understanding wonders, right? And then with wonders, there was another project that we were having them also learn, which was, I can't remember what it was. It's what? Oh yeah, the 95% group. Is that the walk to read part, or is that the inventory? All right, just making this clear. Okay, so we already have our elementaries doing that. What do we have our middle schools and high schools doing at this point as far as new curriculum that they're learning?
The middle schools don't have any new widespread adoption. Each school has their own initiatives. The social studies teachers, as we discussed in our last board meeting, do have access to a new digital component of their curriculum.
Okay.
But other than that, there are not new initiatives occurring in a specific content.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out what I feel about the impact of giving elementary or the other middle school or high school more to try to learn to start figure out with. Does that make sense? So I feel like I want the high quality product, which would be not doing anything until January, and like reviewing everything and making sure we have everything in place, and getting the more reviewed, the more feedback groups, and then giving those teachers an opportunity to get them started with the 95% wonders and get that settled a little bit. That gives them 4 months to get that put in place. Besides the fact they're still taking walk to read, and they have units 4 through 8 to finish with walk to read, which they'll do 2 of those, I think, by the time we hit January. They'll have 2 left, right? That they're still
letters.
working on.
Correct.
The letters, sorry. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. The letters, they're still working on those and doing those after school and during weekends, trying to get those units finished up. So I'm back to, like I said, the high quality product and getting more feedback from the groups and giving those elementary teachers an opportunity to get the school year started, and then starting to roll out the program in January so they have a breather before they have one more thing put on their plate.
Okay. Other questions or comments? And board, I'll just remind us that at this point, this is not up for action. They're introducing these 2 options for us to consider. And then, so I just wanted to bring that up that way, but, other comments, questions? Oh, Superintendent, would you like to say something? Okay.
So
Okay.
just a couple of things. One is just thinking this through as we talked about it. Initially, we had the idea of, doing more of a batch cycle. A couple of issues with that, and Brian pointed that out, was calibration was one. Secondly was the availability of lessons to teachers and schools based on their need, right? So schools have different, as we've learned, with some of the behaviors and issues that we're dealing with. It's different, you know, based on what the school is experiencing. So part of the reason for introducing this concept in option one would be that it would be schools would have the ability to choose which lessons that they would want to utilize. Obviously, the challenge with that is that it puts all of it out there, but it also has the component for parents to review prior to the lesson, which that's something that I think Holly or one of you called for last time. So parents would have the opportunity to opt out, and then we would have a feedback cycle that parents and teachers would be able to provide that feedback on the fly, running side by side with the formal review process that we're going through. So there are some protections built in. Just to be fully transparent, I'm a little worried about not providing the support to teachers right away because, you know, some of these behaviors have increased. And so I get there's a little bit of risk, right, on putting that out there. But at the same time, I think all the work that's been put into it and the development has been fantastic in alignment to the strategic vision and the direction that we want to go. But I totally understand and hear what Clarine's saying about everything that's in addition. So it might be a little more of a risk proposition on option one, but it also, I think, gives our teachers the tools on demand that they need quicker than maybe prior versus a full review and then a release in January. But I also see the value, and we've talked about this, in providing a much more polished product in January that, you know, would be probably more ready to go. So
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Rick? Just a couple of reminders. So last week, we mentioned that the lessons have been designed to fit into the structures that are already in place in the school schedule. So for example, at the elementary level, the schools are doing morning meeting in, I think, nearly all 28 of our schools at this point. So that's going to happen regardless of the curriculum, that time for community building and that connection with the students. And the lessons were specifically designed with that structure in mind to really be easy to implement. So not going to require a whole lot of prep from the teacher. So hopefully that helps ease some of your concerns, though we share those concerns, which is also why, as Dr. Robbins mentioned, this would be an optional field test. So if a school is not in a position for a number of reasons that they're ready to implement the field test right away, they would have that option. Or if a school does choose to implement, but they've got 8 new teachers who are just trying to keep their heads above water with learning how to teach and learning all the new curricula, it wouldn't even necessarily have to be every single teacher in the entire building. And so a school could really tailor that again to the needs of the school and the needs of their teacher.
So Amber, just clarify too for the board. My understanding is K1 is attached to Wonders, correct? And
Correct.
2 through 8 is the lessons and the modules that we have built.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I think everyone probably wants to make comments. Amber and or Mrs. Schill, and then Mr. Wrigley, then Mrs. Oaks.
So, I mean, I could just see there's pros and cons to both. The thing I kind of worry about is if we don't have it. I mean, not that I worry, but I think schools will have to do something. So
Correct.
wouldn't it be better if they're using our curriculum instead of all these schools doing all these different things? So that is another thing, because I do think I think schools, they were doing stuff. I don't know what every school was doing, but they were doing something last year, and they'll probably continue that. It feels like it's more work for them to come up with something than to just follow curriculum we've already provided.
That
So
is
that's
an
just my
accurate
input.
assessment.
Thank you. Mr. Wrigley, Mrs. Oaks, and Mrs. Nybauer. All right, Mrs. Oaks, Mr. Wrigley, Mrs. Nybauer.
So I share a concern that's been mentioned about doing it sooner rather than the later date. But my reasoning is different. I am concerned that the transparency piece. So my community was very, very, very concerned about second step, about SCL, and for a variety of different reasons. And I feel like it's critically important that as we move forward, they have a lot of time to be able to absorb what's going on, be able to look through the materials, be able to really feel like they have adequate time to really take a deep look at what's happening, and that they feel safe with what their children are receiving. I would actually feel much better if we, like, for this to go along where the public has more opportunity to be able to see provisional lessons. Like, I don't feel like in 2 weeks I can say yes to this if I don't see the lessons that are proposed to move forward. You know what I mean? Like, I need to be able to read through all of them. The public needs to be able to read through all of them. And I just feel like this is a long-term game. It's not about only the short term of the year 2022 to 23. We want to make sure that we're building something that gets public buy-in for the long haul. And that's my biggest concern, is that we could actually undermine ourselves and the long-term goal if we don't give ourselves and the parents enough time to really be able to digest this. So that's my thought. I would probably vote for the second option for that reason. And unless there's a way that we can provide the public opportunity to see things more clearly before that happens.
So what we are envisioning with option one would be that all of the lessons would be available for review as soon as if that option is selected. And then the parameters of the field test would be that the teachers and the schools that are choosing to implement, they're choosing the entry points at which they would be teaching specific lessons. So they may not all start with the same unit, because again, they're going to be hopefully looking at their needs and where they want to begin with that implementation. And so that's why we've built in the parameters that the teachers would extensively review the lesson prior to teaching it and send that specific lesson to that class's parents, so that they then would also know what class is being taught probably the next week, or however they're going to organize that communication. At any juncture, whether it's from the specific lesson that a parent has been informed of that is being taught to their child's class, or they're just reviewing independently all of the lessons that are available and transparent at that point, they will have the opportunity to give feedback on a specific lesson, a specific unit, or the curriculum as a whole. And then, as we've done in the past with traditional curriculum adoption proposals, we bring to you the complete curriculum, all of the pros and cons, all of the data, all of the feedback that we've gathered to that point, but then we also make it publicly available in its entirety, meaning the teacher and the student side of everything. And then they'd have another point at that juncture to give additional feedback for the finished product, because what they'd be giving feedback on initially would be drafts. What they'd be giving feedback during the traditional 3-reading proposal of the curriculum would be the curriculum as a whole.
So can I ask a follow-up question on that? What are you proposing is the methodology and the timing that these teachers would need to give parents? Because I don't know about you, but when life gets busy, kids are in sports lessons and all of these other things, and you're trying to fix dinner and do all these other things. If an email comes across and says, hey, it's time for you to review the curriculum and the lesson's going to be taught tomorrow, you might as well forget about it. I mean, so I think that we need to have, if we were to move forward with that, some sort of parameters or expectations that gives parents enough time to be able to really sit down and do that. I think that that's part of the complaint or the frustration that we've heard from parents, is that, yeah, we are in our own district world of how this functions on our timeline, right? But we have to remember what it's like on the customer end. And I would just submit that with either proposal that we move forward with, that we really consider that and the parent perspective, how much time they need at a minimum. And also that there's a consistent way, whether it's Parent Square, I don't know, or email, that they know what to look for and what to expect. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think that we can provide that guidance, and that we would also ask for some flexibility with our parent stakeholders, understanding what the teachers are dealing with, and that they may change their mind based on issues that are arising in their classroom. And they might have been planning to teach a specific lesson on respect, but realize that they need to jump really quickly to conflict resolution because of what's been happening on the playground or during lunch at the middle school. So they may choose to change up their scope and sequence. And so I think it's that balance of, yes, this is what we will try to communicate on the most consistent basis, and there may be some exceptions.
Mr. Wrigley, then Mrs. Nybauer, and then Mr. Millerberg.
All I needed to know about life skills and starting off in life, I learned in kindergarten through first grade. If I didn't learn it then, it makes it difficult. It's like reading. If you don't learn reading by third grade, you may never catch up even into high school. Our third graders have not had social emotional skills or learning life skills. They had COVID. For the first 2 years, we had nothing. Last year, we cut them short. We tried to make sure it was something, but it was inconsistent as best as we could do, but it was inconsistent from school to school. We really didn't know what was being taught. This year, so last year, we had programs in second step that had some questions and concerns, but we had CEA say, we need to keep it. We had the most of our teachers saying we needed to keep it. We had 29 of our principals saying we needed to keep it because that was how much they felt social emotional skills or learning skills, life skills, not the particular program, but just the concept that those skills were needed within their students. My daughter last year had ninth graders that acted like seventh graders. The longer we put this off, it'd be like having kids come back from COVID and not doing remedial math. We have to catch it up. We need remedial life skills very much right now in our programs. We've got our teachers that have been screaming for help for this last year, saying we cannot teach if they cannot learn. And so you can't expect us to have higher reading skills and math skills if they emotionally cannot deal with being in school in the first place. We do not have a perfect program, but we're gone way over on trying to meet the needs of everybody. You have to remember that most of the parents last year, when we had even second step, said we would rather keep that than nothing. We had a smaller number saying we have some concerns about it. We're pretty vocal. But we had those parents saying, that's how critical for my kids are these social emotional skills. They're having all kinds of behavioral issues from COVID. I need help. You guys have done a magnificent job over the summer and putting something together that at least will be standardized and reviewed up the yin yang as compared to just asking principals to come up with something. As you said, we're already taking that time, and the teachers will still have to learn something. Either it's going to be a school curriculum, which is not approved by the board, or it's going to be this curriculum. Schools still have choice. So that goes that they may say, I don't want to do this. I still want to do my own curriculum. I suspect if given a curriculum and supports, most of schools will say, yes, we want to have something standardized. You're going to give this to me. We won't have to come up with our own. We're also going to have parent requests to opt out. So if parents don't want to do this during this year, we're also going to have this stuff set to parents. Correct. We're also running the curriculum against parents. I don't know what else you guys could do, but I think it's critical that we start as fast as possible, because delaying this is no different than to say, and the board wouldn't say, we want to delay reading. No, we want to delay English. It was critical last year that we came back and just as much as we could to bring up those scores. The social emotional skills of our kids, their mental health is probably the biggest thing right now that's keeping them from being more active and more, all the mental health problems, the suicide issues. This is life and death. So I really support us trying to get it out of there as quickly as possible, because I think having a standardized program that's gone through this much review with this many professionals and gone through parent review is much better than nothing, or having some makeshift thing. And our teachers are crying for it. Our parents are saying, I don't know what to do. So I'm glad you guys are moving forward with this. I would hate to put it off until January. The entire school year is gone. What are they going to do? I think your programs, we have some experts in this district. We got more PhDs than Carter has liver pills. Yeah, nobody knows that nowadays, but anyway. But I mean, we have some very talented and masters and bachelors of the curriculum development people that have been working on this. I feel very confident in moving forward with this and tweaking it. We're going to hear if a lesson's got some issues, but then again, we need to hear from more than one person. One person cannot determine our curriculum. We need to have a go through, if it's a concern, and run through a committee and make sure that that's valid. No one person should be deciding anything on this. So I'm excited to see this. I think it's a good job. It's going to get feedback, and I suspect we'll make millions on selling it to other school districts and that's how we're going to fund our budget, Leon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Neibauer and then Mr. Millerberg.
First off, I want to thank you. You've been tasked with a very difficult thing to create a social emotional learning curriculum as a district after what happened last year with all the tumultuous effects of the distrust, right, that occurred regarding second steps and the links. And so you've been set up and asked to do something very difficult. And Steve very eloquently described kind of both sides of this, those that are anxious and saying we need this, and teachers that are saying we need this. And yet there is parent concern and there is a need to build trust and transparency, and just appreciate all the work and the specific focus to all the details and coming on your anniversary night. That is major dedication. So I just first want to say thank you. Okay, a few things. So when we adopted the Wonders curriculum as a board, we were told that the social emotional curriculum we were setting to the side.
Correct.
We are now saying that kindergarten and first grade, we are going to do the Wonders social emotional. So that will also need to go through, a process of, I haven't reviewed any of the kindergarten through first grade Wonders. So with the social emotional and that hasn't been available to the public and the parent review committee. So I'm assuming that you're saying that would also go through that process.
Okay. So we would couch it, all of the Wonders lessons in CSD's life skills curriculum, not Wonders. So we'd be proposing it with this curriculum.
And everyone could review it.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time this year in policy committee going over.
We have.
And I have to say, I love policy committee, but our district-wide primary curriculum materials adoption procedures, I feel we really nailed down the timeline of how much time we're going to give to the public to review. We have a process here about the district curriculum committee, and then at what point, we give the opportunity for parents to review. I'm really grateful for Dr. Robbins and how he explained that there would be this opportunity, but I am concerned that in our effort and haste to get something that's needed, we're just kind of crunching that all in. And I don't know that we're going to give it an adequate amount of time. We talk about there's parent opt-out. Well, I happen to have in my district of the world, I have a lot of parents that if this moves out too quickly are just going to opt out. And then I'm concerned for the teachers that may have a class and 2/3 of their students are opting out. I worry about that long term. I want this to be successful. It is needed. And I think it's so very important that we have people subscribe to it. And so that's a concern of mine. My other concern is when we go to your document that says developmental targets and overall competency link, I'm concerned still, and I'd love to hear from my fellow board members, but I'm concerned that these focal points that we are identifying do not line up with our strategic plan under human-centered supports. Under human-centered supports, we say CSD will implement tiered systems to support the social, emotional, and mental well-being of students that foster honesty, integrity, responsibility, hard work, resilience, lifelong learning, personal growth, service, and respect. And I know I've talked about this in previous board meetings, but when I click on this Canyon School District Life Skills Curriculum, the first one is understand and manage emotions, and there'll be lesson plans under that. Set and achieve positive goals, establish and maintain positive relationships, feel and show empathy, make responsible decisions, and conflict resolution. And I feel that in our implementation of our strategic plan that went through such a process, where is the honesty? Where are the kids going to define what it means to be honest? Why is it valuable to be honest? How that helps your classroom and your peers, the service, the integrity, the resilience, teaching kids it's okay to make a mistake. Mistake is part of learning and growing, and we can move on and be grateful for the mistake we made, and people can forgive one another because we're learning. So my concerns are that I feel that we have this established in the strategic plan, and we're kind of going this way. And so I'd love to see it lined up. And I know we've talked about that before, and I felt like you took notes and were saying, yes, we're going to do more with the honesty and integrity or service. And I'm not seeing it. And so how do we do that? How do we capture that strategic plan that went through so much work and effort when we're establishing new focal points than the ones we outlined in the plan?
So I'm going to address your first comment about the review and the policy around instructional materials.
Yes.
This process actually far exceeds the review process that we have outlined in policy, not just in the amount of time that we will be reviewing the individual lessons, but in the layers of review that we have built in, that you have in the supporting documents and board docs. So that level of review is actually far more extensive than our policy requires.
And maybe I'm not understanding. Can you tell me the timeline of that review?
Well,
Rick did a good job of
that
explaining
depends on
all
which
that.
option you take.
Right. So
if it's
describe
option
both.
one, we would be able to take a little bit longer to complete all of these phases. And we would see that likely going through January-ish. And if you choose option two to wait until January, we would need to finish that review by early December.
So how long of a review process before it's in the classroom? For the committee that you've invited the parents and the teachers, how long do they have to review it with both options?
So with option one, which is a simultaneous field test and review, all of the lessons will be available to review at the same time that we give them to teachers in draft form. The extensive review will be happening simultaneous to that.
But it's at go time when they're actually being taught in the classroom, right? It's at the same time, simultaneous.
They'll be available, but remember the teachers will be reviewing those lessons and they'll give them to the parents, the specific lesson that they're teaching prior to actually delivering.
So that strays a little bit from our procedure, because our procedure, it's like, in our procedures, it's like 18 months before. And so this is, hey, in real life time, your daughter's going to go to school and hurry and look and review at this, but it's happening in real life. So that does stray the time frame, right?
It's different because when we bring a curriculum proposal to y'all, we are typically bringing published curricula that have already been field tested and researched.
Sure.
This curriculum has not. And so the process for developing a quality curriculum is to develop draft lessons.
Sure.
To get some feedback, particularly through implementation, revise those lessons, and then that becomes the curriculum that we are proposing for adoption.
And then the other way, we have a consideration where actually there's review before it goes to the classroom, right? Because there's more time to review.
Correct. So we still have the same process. The field test just occurs after the extensive review and is a shorter time to field test the lessons before it comes to you.
So if we're waiting and doing more of a review before we do the field test, that actually goes in line a little more closely with even what we do with published curriculums, because we're giving a little more amount of time for that district curriculum review process to happen before it's actually in the classroom.
I would see them still, both options exceeding our policy in terms of the review and availability.
Yeah, I guess I share the same concerns that Ms. Oaks said. As a busy mother, it's a little difficult to be able to get that in real time and be able to review that. So having an adequate amount of time beforehand, I think it puts a lot of pressure on our parents to try to see that. And I'm worried about building.
Another way to look at it would be in option one, all of the lessons would be available and they would have the review basically from September until April through all of your readings to review the lessons. In option two, they would have from January to April to review all of the lessons.
Right, but at the same time, the lessons would begin in the classroom
in option one.
in option one. Yeah. Okay, and then were you going to answer the other questions about how we're straying from the strategic plan?
So I think that, as Brian mentioned in our board presentation 2 weeks ago, the competencies outlined by the Portrait of a Graduate, which is reflected in our strategic plan, those competencies come directly from the Portrait of a Graduate resources that USBE has developed. We also took into consideration, again, the behavior problems that we're seeing in our data and specific skills aligned to that Portrait of a Graduate that would actually reduce or prevent those behaviors. So maybe in the developmental targets, you might not see that exact language, but in looking at the 400 plus lessons across the kindergarten through 8th grade spectrum, I think you would see all of the components of the strategic plan represented. Also, to just point out what President Tingy and Dr. McGill have mentioned, this is one part of a tier 1 system and one part of the human-centered support services that are in every single school. And so we have to look at all of those pieces versus just this one particular component in developing all of those competencies.
Oh, okay, so do you feel that in the lesson plans that there will be a reinforcement of teaching honesty and service and respect and those things that we did outline in the strategic plan? Will those be actually mentioned in the lesson plans? Or are you saying that would be a consideration for something outside of the lesson plans?
I feel confident that the lessons organized across kindergarten through 8th grade represent the competencies in the Portrait of a Graduate that are outlined in the strategic plan.
So those words are actually in, if you look at the plan, under competencies, respect, honesty, integrity, responsibility, hard work, resilience are there. They might not be as forward facing, but they're actually in bold. The only one I don't see is the word service. But I mean, when you're looking at, some of the other competencies that go along with that service may be embedded in its actions other ways, like you're saying. But those words are honesty, integrity, responsibility. Those are all I'm looking at. They're all there.
Yeah, and they are. It's just they're not under the targets. So it's identifying under honesty, integrity, responsibility, hard work, resilience. The targets are identifying social norms, demonstrating social norms, analyze the reason for schools and social rules. I don't see anything inside there. I do in the heading. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Does any other board members feel that way at all?
Keep in mind what you're seeing with those developmental targets are, again, a broad-based target towards a larger competency that's meant to be achieved really over a student's entire time in our school system. So when you look at, for example, those developmental targets that are organized, let's take kindergarten through 2nd grade, for example. When you're looking at building relationships or building resilience in terms of one of our unit, there's a couple of targets listed for K2. That's 3 grade levels. And those are some milestones or goalposts that you could say to get towards that larger competency. But not every single one of those targets will be in every single grade. That's where the specific skills that were defined and then the learning intention and success criteria for each lesson start to flesh out all of those particular skills. So not everything is going to be represented in the developmental target, but the lessons will reflect the skills that develop.
Amber, so I think the bottom line, the question here is, are the competencies embedded in the targets? That's the question.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's the assurance we want. That's what I'm seeing. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
More questions? Sorry, did you have more? I would. A lot of the issues that I get calls on all the time, and we have some really big issues with kids in high school, and a lot of it is, we have issues with kids doing things on Google Docs and getting into accounts and sharing and social media, and we have all of these things, and these problems start and then they escalate because kids have a hard time being honest about saying, oh, you know what? I know about that and it's my friend or this or that. And I just, when we're looking at those targets, again, I see a lot of value in having a target for kids from a young age to be able to define and know what it means to be honest, and be able to define and say what are the benefits from being honest, and be able to kind of have that walk and talk through of, what are the repercussions of being honest? How does that help your community? And so, and I understand what Rick's saying with the competencies. I'd just really love to hear from other board members if anyone else feels at all like this is something that would be important to teach the kids, because I really do. And I do feel it's outlined in our strategic plan, and I think it's important. So I've spoken enough. If anyone else wants to talk about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Milliberg?
Thank you. Brian, I'm going to start with you. I'm sorry you had to spend your anniversary here.
It's all good. My wife was married to a high school principal for a long time.
Yeah, yesterday I celebrated my half century, okay? And I spent that at Midvale Elementary in the morning slapping hands with kids. And if your wife is anything like mine, my wife said, go, you need to be there. Have a good time. So I hope you're as fortunate as I am. I think the idea of getting life skills taught in our classrooms is critical. But I'm kind of looking at a balance in here somewhere between a sense of urgency, and one of our basic tenets coming out of the strategic plan was that the students will have access to high quality education. And then you further complicate that by throwing in the term field test. And I'm scratching my head and say, at what point does this become high quality education? And I don't know that I want to go back to the term that Mr. Wrigley used, it's better than nothing. I don't want better than nothing. I want high quality education. And so, I'm just a little bit confused about how we're going to get there. I also know you guys are awesome. I feel very fortunate that we have the people working for Canyon School District that we have working for us. You are totally capable of getting there. But you and I both know that as you put this out for field tests, it's going to morph. And the product that you put out to the classroom for field testing is not going to be what comes back after the field test. It will be better.
Correct.
Again, at what point are we offering high quality education? I kind of feel like in some ways, initially, instead of high quality education, we're using our kids as guinea pigs. And that's probably not a very nice way to say it. And I also have to go back to what was said earlier about we're looking at talking about lessons that haven't been written, that we haven't seen, that we have no idea what's in them. And I don't know how I can tell you if I like plan 1 or plan 2 better when I don't know what it is that'll be taught. And in many ways, Amber, I have to look at you and say, you are the education professional. And for me, I can't speak for the other 6, but for me, I have to trust you. And I have to trust your recommendations. And we have a pretty long history of that trust working pretty well. So I'm not going to voice an opinion on plan A, plan B, plan 1, plan 2. But I am concerned that we have something that really is high quality education in the classrooms with a sense of urgency. Thank you.
I will say there is a lot of high quality instruction going on all day, every day in our classrooms. This is a 20-minute component, and though the lessons have not been field tested yet, they were evidence informed, which is our next best option versus adopting an evidence-based curriculum, which is part of our policy. So I think that we have the best scenario that we could have, given that we've developed this ourselves, and publishers take years to do what our writing teams have done in a couple of months. So I think that that's those teams are to be commended for their work.
So if you are assuring me that initially we will have high quality education, and again, it's a real trust me deal, and I do trust you. And that when it comes through the process and it is morphed into something, what it morphs into is a higher quality
Correct.
education,
Exactly.
then I'm okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think Superintendent, did you have follow-up?
Yeah,
And then
I just wanted
Mrs.
to
Oaks and Mrs.
comment to Mon's point. I think, you know, when Amber and Brian first brought this to me and as we started to discuss, I mean, I think the level and the expectation of content and curriculum that's developed by our people is exceedingly high. So when we're talking about, I mean, when you look at those sample lesson plans and just their design, you know, I would put our team up against the best curriculum developers in the world. I mean, they're amazing. And considering where we were, you know, with Second Steps, which had its pluses, comparing that to, you know, the development with our team and the level of care and thought that they, you know, put into this, I think start there, right? So it's, to your point, Mont, that threshold. And, you know, I even mentioned to Amber, I mean, her trepidation and worry about, is it, you know, it doesn't meet the mark. I mean, her own expectation as a curriculum developer is exceedingly high. And I'm not saying that lowers the standard at all. It's just, we're starting from a very, very high threshold to begin with. So, I think, you know, the work and effort that they put in, and, you know, also, I think we have to also begin with the premise that it is starting from what, you know, we expected when it comes to the strategic vision and portrait of a graduate. This isn't based on CASEL. This isn't based on national norm standards. This is based on what our conversations have been. And it starts there, which, you know, that's reflective of what the entire school community expects, right? And even though there might be extreme opinions on both ends of what that might look like, the overall consensus is that it was best that we develop this on our own. And, you know, I really believe, I mean, what I've seen so far is that eventually this will serve as a model to other districts. And my guess is that we'll have districts that probably want to purchase this from us eventually because they're all searching for the same thing, which that's really exciting. That I think that's a place that we're headed with this. So I just, you know, I really appreciate all the excellent work that's been put into this. And it really is CSD and it's, you know, born here and made here. So well done.
And I just want to add a component. You all know me. I'm a data evidence girl. And I've mentioned to Ms. Oaks at the last meeting that there's been a lot of compelling research coming out in the last year that a number of districts across the country have been writing their own curriculum and getting results. And so I think you all know my panic about writing our own and not having it field tested or not having as much evidence behind it. The research continues to be compelling that the districts who are in fact taking the time to develop a quality curriculum, test it and implement are seeing reduction in the behaviors that they were trying to prevent. So I think that that's exciting. It makes me sleep at night.
Thank you. Mrs. Arnold, then Mrs. Wicks.
So I worry about asking this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. We have the RISE data back, right?
We do.
Have we been able to look through that?
We have.
So my question is, there's another district really close by who did do second steps all last year, and us who did not do second steps, but our teachers stepped up and did the best they could. Did we not receive higher data than the school using the second steps?
We have not compared the results with the other districts because the results are not certified yet for us to be able to look at those. So I can't answer the comparison. We've been able to preliminarily review our results.
Okay, I'm going back to data, right? Trying to figure out how best to approach this. scenario because I really hate putting something out there. Like Mont said, put it out there and then, work on it. Or not put it out there and still work on it, but not work on it as much. But we have parents who really need to see it and we need to follow that guideline. But anyway, okay, I'm still working on my thinking process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Oakes.
Okay, so in follow up, in answer to what Ms. Nybar asked, I do think it's important that we align with the competencies as set forth in the strategic plan. And I think it's just fair to say that as board members, we'll be looking for that, right? To make sure and line up and, compare. Just as a clarifying question, it wasn't clear to me in the presentation, are these lessons in both scenarios, would they be used in the school only after the parent advisory committee sees it?
No. They would be, no, the external or the internal review process would be happening simultaneously with
Okay.
option one. And so the parent review would happen likely October through November,
Okay.
regardless of the option. Actually, the difference would be that they wouldn't be available to the teachers until January with option two after all of the review has been done.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's where my primary concern comes is that we don't have at least a parent group kind of vetting some of that. And in response to, as we're kind of turning to the discussion about the strategic plan and the competencies, I think we have to be really careful about looking at behaviors that the kids have and completely blaming or laying at the feet of the school's complete responsibility. I mean, really, at the end of the day, whether or not my kid is honest or forthright is my responsibility as a parent. I think it's too much to expect the schools to carry that. Now, with that said, we have a partnership that needs to function, right? To reinforce one another. Like we expect that parents are going to teach their kids those value systems. We recognize it doesn't happen in every home and that not every home is ideal. We also hope and expect that the school is going to do certain things. Where I'm coming from this is that I want to really promote a strong partnership between the home and the school. And the only way in my mind that we can effectively do that is if we really have parental buy-in and trust in how this moves forward. It's not all the schools' deal. Like at the end of the day, like the people that have the greatest impact on their child's life is the parent. And we're just there in a supportive role. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. So I have a few thoughts and comments. I am really fascinated with this idea of field testing. And it sounds like really to have a usable high and higher quality curriculum that it needs a field test. And what's fascinating to me is that field test can be done in our community with feedback from Canyon's parents and feedback from Canyon's teachers. And I think not only do we have amazing experts and educational professionals, we have amazing parents, we have amazing teachers. And to me, opening it up so that more eyes can be on this, I just think I'm really kind of excited and hopeful that we can just together work on this. And the way I see it here, whether we go with option one or option two, what we're approving is this process, and that the ultimate final approval of the actual lessons comes in the spring. Correct. After the field test, after the modifications and adjustments and the move from high quality to higher quality happens. And so I just, I wanted to just clarify that's how I see this. And that whether we go with option one or option two, what we're saying is okay to move forward with this process. And a step in the process is the field testing. And then but all the while, there's an option for parents to opt out. They will be notified ahead of time. And, you know, it's been mentioned here, like how much ahead of time, and recognizing there needs to be some flexibility, for teachers, but also parents need to be given adequate time. So I don't know that I have a solution to that, but I think that's something that maybe you guys could talk about and bring back to us a solution on that. And then the other thing is this, it was asked about the content, right? The concepts of honesty and things like that. And you know, I'll be looking for that. But to me, honesty is one of those character traits that should be embedded in just about everything. And it's not just a one and done lesson type skill. It's everything, whether it's honesty, integrity, and even service. And so I see that those can be overarching and embedded as well as overarching in each of these content target areas that you're talking about. So, you know, I will be looking for examples of that as well as we review it. But a question now for you, this again, kind of distinguishing between option 1 and option 2, you mentioned that really the field testing time would be shortened for option 2.
Correct.
Over option 1. And, but in option 1, you mentioned that all of the draft lessons or the high quality lessons would be made available to teachers, but would they also be made available to parents?
Correct.
And so not just the parents on the review committee, but all parents.
Yep, we would publish
Even if
everything
their
online.
classroom teacher decides, you know what, we're good, we don't need to take that on right now. Parents throughout the district could access that whole bank
Yes.
of lessons
All 400
beginning
plus lessons.
in September-ish.
Mhm.
So again, I think that kind of opens up a little to make that field test a more robust process
And
in a way. But I mean, in either way, sorry. So in option 2, that full bank would be available to the public after the advisory committee grade level teams have had a look at it.
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Mr. Wrigley?
Just a question. In option 2 on the field test, we've got what, 400 lessons?
400 plus. Mhm.
4 plus lessons. In graduate school, we did field testing in 3 months with that many lessons. We wouldn't be able to probably field test everything.
Correct.
So we'd have some that are field tested once or twice, but not adequate time to really field test it. Then when it comes back in March, you're going to have to make all the corrections between then and May, which is the end of the busy school year. Otherwise, you're going to spend all summer next year putting the curriculum final together if we could start the final one. So we're really putting the staff at a crunch time again. And we're also not allowing enough time to really field test 400 and some lessons in 3 months. So if we want really high quality lessons, we need to have them field tested as much as possible in as many schools as possible, so we get the most feedback. So that, and also maybe give you enough time if the other one, when was the field testing done with the other one in March?
September through March.
It was the same time, I guess, but it had more time as far as that. And I would suspect if you're getting stuff in saying it's not working, you'd probably start working on it before March.
Exactly.
So you would have time between September to March to, if you're getting lessons and you're going, we need to change it, you could start doing that before, which may mean our staff may get a vacation next year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board, any other comments or requests for information for when they bring this back next board meeting? Yes, Dr. McGill.
Comment. So I think for everyone, it might be important just to run through the 5 unit focal points that we're talking about. Making responsible decisions, setting goals and personal growth, building resilience, understanding and serving your community, respecting self, others, and resolving conflict. Just yesterday, I fielded a phone call from a concerned parent who was anti-second step and is actually against traditional SEL curriculum as a whole. And I had an opportunity over a 10-15 minute conversation to talk with her about what we were looking to do and walked through her the focal points, our process and everything. And she said she got really excited. And she's like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of parents in my community that are concerned and worried about this. And she goes, this is the greatest thing I've heard. Like, this is awesome. Like, you're giving parents an opportunity to opt out. The skill sets that you're looking to institute will help kids with their school as well as with life success. And she's like, I love the fact that you guys are creating from within internally so that we have control over the content. And her concluding remark to me, she says, you know, I'm actually going to go to all my neighbors and kind of tell them what Canyons is doing. She said, quite frankly, I'm really excited about the direction you guys are headed. So that was very promising to hear. So.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you for this presentation. So board, I think if we kind of right now we feel like we understand option 1, option 2. So we will bring it back at our next board meeting for possible action. Everybody okay with that? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay, next on the agenda is item 6D, policy update, policy 300.11, school unpaid meal charges. This is a first reading and Mr. Christensen is not available, so I will turn the time over to Mr. Leon Wilcox, Business Administrator.
Thank you, President. Yes, Jeff is asked to be excused tonight. We'll try to get through this really quickly so Brian can enjoy the rest of his anniversary. Brian, someone did leave a bag of Lay's potato chips on my desk there. They're all yours, pal, if you need them. Late gift. Okay. Potato chips doesn't hurt. But if need be, mine is next month, so I might keep them. So I hope my wife's not listening. Lucky Mary, exactly. Lucky Mary. Nothing like being married to an accountant, right? It's so exciting. One of the policy committee met this past week, so any of you who were there could comment. Just one policy, school unpaid meal charges. Not so much the meal unpaid portion will still mainly stay intact. The one issue we are changing is we are no longer having clerks, mainly because we can't find clerks. It's just a 2-hour position to take the cash during that lunch period. So we've gone to we've asked our parents, schools to convert to a completely online payment system using debit or credit cards via Skyward. We've implemented this module starting yesterday, had a few hiccups, but we were trying to work through those this week to get those all ironed out. So that is basically the whole policy there is moving to online payments. We do appreciate our principals sending out information over the last few weeks, as well as Jeff and Kirsten as well. From yesterday, from what we've gathered, there were about 20 people who asked to pay in cash or check. So that message has been out there and been received. So we're really not getting any cash or check payments, and we can work through those if needed be. So that's the policy there. There is a red line version that basically just changes that one line as well. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments? No, you did a great job explaining it. So, really, if I'll just kind of summarize, this is really just aligning policy with practice. And so, board, because of this, are you okay when we bring it back next time? Perhaps it could just go on to consent agenda. Everyone okay with that? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, next, we will, I'll invite comments from Superintendent Robbins and then Business Administrator Leon Wilcox.
Thank you, President. Real quick on that, Leon, and maybe clarify this, but so the responsibility of actually tracking that would fall to our secretarial staff, correct? For lunch? Is that how I understand that?
No,
Or is
it'd be on it's more on the parent side because they can log into Skyward and
Okay.
see the balances there of the.
I'd heard that. I'd been out in schools and I'd heard that comment. I wasn't sure. So, okay. No, that's helpful. So just a couple of comments. First, I want to say thank you to our team for District Day that was put on for our teachers and their return to school. It was excellent. And I had the opportunity to just say a few things, but they were all in t-shirts. The theme was better together. And it was just great to have everybody back after 2 years that we haven't really been able to do that. So that was a first for me, but I thought school performance and ISD did a fantastic job of putting that together and making it a really productive day. Ribbon cutting, obviously awesome at Glacier Hills and Diamond Ridge and Entrada, and just shout out to our external relations team for making every event first class as they do. And Kirsten's kind of the quarterback behind all of that happening. So just appreciate all of that work. It's awesome. And we had, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of people that attended both. So that was excellent. Also, I mentioned this in the update, but just want to thank Mont. We play in this golf charity with Boys and Girls Club every year, and just to see the support for those kids is awesome, and it's a fun day, and lots of money's raised, and just to see the community. And we ran into a vendor that had worked with the foundation, and completely unsolicited, they commented about how awesome our foundation and Denise Haycock is as the director, and just that they wanted to be involved. And I said, well, I think we're full for the upcoming golf tournament with the foundation, but they just had so many positive things to say about the district and the foundation and the work that goes there. So I really appreciate our support, and it's been great to support the Boys and Girls Club. So, and just first day of school, thank you so much. I mean, there's, lots happens on the first day of school, and everybody's trying to get oriented on where to go and what to do. And there's a lot of organized chaos, but I hope everyone made it home tonight safely yesterday and everybody's okay. And it's just thank you to our staff, our custodial staff, our secretaries. Just the positive energy in the district on the first day was amazing. I got to spend that morning with Mon at Midvale Elementary, and to just see these kiddos, come to school, mostly excited. There were a few that weren't real excited about coming back, but as Mont put it, if we were back in 2020 and saying you're not coming back to school, that was a way bigger downer for most kids than coming back. But just lots of energy and positive excitement around the district, and a lot to celebrate as we get underway. So thank you to teachers, staff, administrators for all that's happened. And also just shout out to CEA. We met this week and continue our collaboration with them has been very positive. So I appreciate all of their efforts as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, thank you. Just to echo Rex's comments, great first day of school. Really appreciated there. Alice and I had a chance to go to Oak Hollow, then down to Peruvian Park. Great things happening at both those places. And it's my first opening day at Oak Hollow. So my wife and I were having some mixed feelings about that. But big shout out, Steve has left, but big shout out to our HR department. We started yesterday down just 3 teachers. We felt very blessed with that. Unfortunately, they were all 3 special ed teachers that we desperately need. But we've heard from our neighboring districts, they're in the teens and anywhere from 15 to 50 down in staff. And they're starting this week as well. So big shout out to Steve and his recruiting staff and all our principals for getting our employees hired. We still could use some bus drivers, down about 15, 18 custodians. Doing down a lot of paras as well. So anybody who's interested, please contact us. We'd love to have you. We feel like we're a great place to work. But could certainly use the help supporting our schools. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we now have some time for some board comments, and let's start with Mr. Milberg.
You know, the first week and the few days leading up to the first week of school are always exciting. Superintendent mentioned the Boys and Girls Club and that we were up there to support, have a good time supporting, absolutely. I mean, that's okay to have fun while you support. But we have the Midvale branch of the Boys and Girls Club, and they do amazing stuff, and we service the same kids. Their kids are our kids, and our kids are their kids. And that's a very important organization. Rick and I talked about it, that we need to schedule a day that we go down and spend a few hours in their facility and get to know people better so that we can make the transition or the care of our kids better. I had the opportunity before school started to go to Mid Valley. They had a meet and greet. Yeah, and Terry, I am a member of the PTA now. She got me. And what a great organization that is. And I guess every school that comes to me and asks me to join, I'll just do it. You had me when you said I don't have to do anything but give money. But it was electric, the feeling in the school, having the parents come back, the kids, watching the kids with former teachers, hugging them. And the teachers, I hope they never make it illegal for kids to get hugged from teachers. It's they are such an important person in that child's life, and they do so much. You know, we've had a discussion about SEL tonight. Just the social and emotional attachment you see with those kids with their teachers at the elementary school is just amazing. And as Rick mentioned, I was able to be down at Midvale Elementary slapping hands with kids. And I probably shouldn't do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Kind of the highlight of my day, and you've got to watch the face, okay? Look at me when I'm telling you. Otherwise, you'll miss it. I've got my hand out slapping hands as the kids are coming, and about 2 kids away, I see one go, slap my hand. I love elementary school. It is just so much fun. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last little bit. So that'll do me for the night, President.
Thank you. Mrs. Arnold?
So my last little bit is I quit coaching and I went back to the 6th grade classroom, which after being out of it for 3 years, I realized that there is so much I do not know and did not remember and had to do because the curriculum had changed and changed and changed. And I actually sat down and cried on Thursday. I do cry now. I remember. Called my husband and said, I just really feel bad for all teachers right now because they're in the same boat. They're all trying to get their act together to get the kids there, to make sure that the kids are happy and the parents are happy and the principal's happy. And I had forgotten, and I promised myself when I was an administrator and went back to the classroom, I would not forget what that was like. And I did. So I really feel like sometimes we just need to, and don't panic out there, okay? Sometimes administrators and coaches, we need to go back to the classroom after 3 years and see what we have asked people to do. Because I still have a list before the parents get there tomorrow night of about 20 things I still have not got to, and I have been there 2 weeks straight from in the morning until 3 and then working at home and then working on weekends. So I'm pretty sure that's why I'm weepy because I'm kind of tired. But we just need to remember that all that happiness comes from a great sacrifice. And it's not ours either, just teachers. Those custodians kill themselves all summer trying to get the class ready for the teachers so that the carpet's clean, the walls are clean, and the furniture's moved. And there are other people. I mean, the list goes on and on about which people have done what, like even talking about the SEL curriculum tonight, that y'all killed yourself all summer to try to pull this up. Sometimes I think we need to slow down and just know that it's okay if it doesn't happen today, that it can happen tomorrow or the next day, because I think we lose our lives. Thank heavens you're not going to lose your wife, and I'm going to be short. I'm sorry, we shouldn't have taken that much time. But we do. We lose our lives in education. And I used to wear a pin a long time ago that said it's okay to say no. And when people would ask me if I could do this or I could do that, I used to always say yes. And then I looked at the pin, and for 2 years I wore it, and it said it's okay to say no, and I would say no. Because the people who get punished the most are our own families and our own children. That's who gets sacrificed when we put in all these hours and all this time. And I look at my 22 grandchildren and I look at my 9 children. I think of all the time I have lost. And the other day I was buying treats for my classroom, and I remembered my son saying to me when he was young, "Why is it that the class gets treats, but we never get them at home?" And I thought, why is that? Why do I buy my classroom treats and I don't buy my kids treats? So as we start the school year, which you guys all started on Monday, I don't start until tomorrow. Let's remember that we love those kiddos, but we need to take care of ourselves and our families too. Okay.
Thank you. Mrs. Oakes.
Thank you so much for that query. I appreciate it. I want to just reiterate much of what was already said about the first day of school. I love red carpet. I think it's so much fun. And the Glacier Hills ribbon cutting was wonderful. I got to go to an Elta and Quarter Canyon girls tennis match yesterday. That was great. Those girls are so amazing when it comes to being really gracious with one another. Their sportsmanship is fantastic. I wanted to publicly thank the district and whoever is overseeing decisions with school nurses. Recently, I've encountered 2 school nurses, one of whom is at my child's school, that they've received training on diabetes pumps and, continuous glucose monitors. This means nothing to the rest of you people, but I'm telling you that is huge, because I have gone up to the emergency room at Primary Children's before and they knew nothing about those things. And I was trying to give them an education. So for our school nurses to have an awareness of those things and that they are conversant and up to date on their information is huge. It said a lot to me about what else they're learning and how well they're functioning at our schools. It's such a blessing. I also had an opportunity to go with Charlie and Susan to meet with Representative Jefferson Moss, who is one of the individuals who is overseeing a lot of decision making with the point, and particularly with the education pieces. He works with the Commissioner of Higher Education, and we really wanted to go and talk to him about the K-12 element of what will happen at the point. And it was a fantastic discussion. And a couple hours later, I walked out with 10 pages of notes. And one of the things that really evolved from that was they haven't gotten totally to the point where they're discussing specific on K-12, but they are going to bring us into more of those conversations very soon. They're saying it might not happen till the spring. And I said, in public education, that's tomorrow. So, but one of the things that he has spent a lot of time at is visiting innovation districts throughout the country and seeing what some of the things that they are doing. It was so fascinating to hear what things they're observing and what they're envisioning. And it's really important for us as a board to pay close attention, because they are being approached by other charter schools. that want to build out there, that want to do things in oil and mining charter school, for instance, but they really are, feel strongly that whatever we create out there, it needs to be focused on project-based learning, that they have more concurrent options, that we have STEM models with hybrid model with both virtual and traditional. That's the arts are a piece of it. He gave a really interesting example. He talked about Carnegie Mellon, and that as a university, Carnegie Mellon is well known for their STEM programs, that also for their performing arts and other arts programs. And they actually have a building. The two buildings are next to each other where there's a bridge that converges, and in the middle, they have a maker space where they encourage both sides of learning to come together and innovate. And he talked about the fact that they really want to see some sort of an innovation space or a maker space in that area, and that it's very important that we continue to have discussions and work together moving forward. One of the things he discussed was engineering design process. And this dovetails into the last thing I wanted to talk about. And that is, I'm really grateful to the administration at Draper Park Middle for moving forward with creating an after-school robotics class. They had so much response from the community that they had to create 2 classes. And I picked up my 12-year-old today after school and asked her about how it went. And she said, there's this thing she talked about. Was the engineering design something? And I got so excited. I said, you're going to learn the engineering design process. This is fantastic. It's exactly what you need to be doing. And so I just want to thank you. I thought about that's 50 plus families that their kids are getting that, which is amazing. And it's preparing us for what's coming. So I just want to leave that with you. I'm really, really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wrigley?
Sure, thank you. I want to first off thank the parents and teachers at the old Bellevue Elementary. It was hard to see Bellevue go, but out of the dust and retirement of Bellevue has come a great possibilities with the new Diamond Ridge and Entrada High School. We're talking about options to maybe increase our graduation rate even more. They're talking 500 kids maybe in the next 5 years in that program. And to be able to draw on all kinds of adults across the country, the area here into our high school program for adults, it was electric on the day that we went out there as far as the administrators and the kids, the teachers, students at Diamond Ridge and Entrada. This had been a dream come true. It would not have been possible if we didn't combine them into 2 schools, because there's no way we're going to run a bond for an alternative high school in the district. You just cannot run that. But it was so exciting to see that. I think Jeff figured out a way to make really quick dedications. He plans the rain 30 minutes after you start. And everybody's just rushing in there to get that. And exactly at the end, it starts raining on us. The communities was exciting to see the communities come together. We have been able as a board to help unite Sandy and White City into having all the mayors and all the people. I hadn't seen that in years. So that's exciting to see all that come together as we try to unite our communities. The next day, we had the same opportunity for a possible rain out at Diamond Ridge, or at Glacier Hills. And that was exciting. I was really sort of concerned about the name Yeti, because I always can think it's a cup or something. But when the Yeti showed up, the kids were electric. And I have never had, and we had, I think it was 800 parents that came to Eltaview. We had probably 1,000 that came here. They couldn't even walk in all the halls. But as I walked the halls, I had so many parents thank the board for having this nice school in their neighborhood. They just loved it. And it meant so much for these kids that they're going to be going to an environment that's beautiful and that says they're of great worth. And they were just excited to see all this and all the stuff going down. And the teachers, I apologized to a couple of the teachers. I said, your view isn't that good of the entire valley, maybe next time. as you're looking across the valley or the mountains. But, you know, the teachers are like, oh my gosh, we actually have air conditioning. And it's, I mean, so I think it was really a real positive and exciting thing. As a board member, a lot of times, first of the year is important as far as starting for most people. Financial people do July, but for board members, August is the start of a whole new year. As we start a new year, we probably need to let the public know that we are 7 average individuals. We're crazy enough to run for office. And we're elected and now serve and are asked to do extraordinary things, sometimes way beyond our talent. It's a learning experience. And I ask your patience with all of us, and especially with me as we move into this new year. And as the board, as comments is, the board is the face and the heart of the district. As the board goes, the district goes. Remember that as we move forward this year. We start over again. The slate is clean. As the board goes, the district goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Nybauer. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate those comments. I just want to briefly thank my fellow board members for their dedication to the board and to the district. And I really appreciated enjoying the first day red carpet at Willow Springs. And I will leave it at that. Enjoy your evening. Thank you. Mrs. Schill.
Okay, I'll try to be fast. I just love the first day and I love that red carpet event. I don't know who came up with that, but I really love it. So thank you. It was really fun to see the kids and the teachers and just how excited, and even the parents, how excited they all were. I do want to say, I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, but the Department of Education retweeted Albion Middle School. It was a video of them like the party of the first day and it had music and everyone was clapping. I mean, it's just what we do at every school, but they actually retweeted that. And I thought that was pretty cool. So, I mean, I don't think they know we do that at every school, but anyway, it was awesome. Well, yeah, they probably do because we had so many tweets, tweets of every school. So I thought that was pretty fun. Oh, I do want to mention it is my husband's birthday today. So we're all making sacrifices here. So, oh, okay. I got some chips for him.
And it's a snack size? Are you kidding me?
Anyway, okay, just one more thing. I just want to remind you guys that it's the USBA Delegate Assembly on August 26th at 6 p.m. We're going to have a panel of legislators. So that should be really interesting. Dinner panel of legislators. It is here at Canyons in the building over there. Or maybe here. I don't know. Somewhere in our building. PDC. Okay. And then that's at 6 p.m. That's a Friday. And then August 27th, 8:30 a.m. is where we have breakfast. And then we vote on all our legislative priorities. So would love to have you guys come. And then my last thing is, I know all the sports are starting and my son plays football and has just spent, I don't know, hundreds of hours at the school. I mean, I would love, and I think Holly has brought this up before, but just when the superintendent talked about like a district day with all the teachers, like I would love us to have a district day with all the coaches. And they do, I have been on UHSAA. They have to go through 9 trainings. They go through a lot of trainings, but I think it would be great if we say, we're Canyons, this is what we expect from our coaches. Because coaches have a huge influence on our kids. And so yeah, that's just an idea for us to contemplate. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw some heads nodding on that suggestion. So, thank you for the reports. I won't take a lot of time because everyone's kind of covered everything I've done the last couple of weeks. But we've had some pretty amazing events and it's been wonderful. And I was at Albion when I guess that now famous video was shot with Wendy Dow was there and we were cheering and we had the pom-poms and it was a lot of fun and it was really great. And then I was able to go from there to a couple of elementary schools, Park Lane, where Olaf, the snowman, helped welcome the kids, and then up to Granite Elementary as well, where they had such a warm welcome. And just a quick thought that I want to share that I had when I was walking through the Diamond Ridge and Entrada, the remodel of the Bellevue building for them, and as has been mentioned, how much excitement there is and how grateful they are for this facility and this opportunity. And they were talking about, coming from portables, and it occurred to me that they now have hallways, and often we take a hallway for granted. We don't think about it until maybe we don't have it, and then we have them again. But I was thinking about the role of hallways in our lives and how it provides avenues for connection, and it provides opportunities for folks to, maybe in passing, just greet each other with a smile or a how are you, or have a great day. And it helps to build communities. And so, I don't know, I just wanted to share that thought with you. And while we may not always have physical hallways, that we create our emotional and our social hallways, that they can be connectors and help us to build community in whatever hallways we can find. So anyway, just wanted to share that thought. And unless there's anything else, yeah, I will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.